Well, hello. Welcome, everyone, to another
Hello.
Timespinner Randomizer race match here. I am that llama girl, also known as Llama, and I am joined by the wonderful and one-of-a-kind Wef Jebster.
Oh, come on. There's at least two of me. Hi, I'm Left Jubster. Hello, SpeedGaming 5. Looking forward to a really, really good clutch matchup here. It's WindFaeMaiden versus James KT. Uh, got two speedrunners here running the randomizer against each other. Pretty exciting. This is a win or else kind of matchup. This is the loser's bracket. The winner of this will go to face Waffle Soup for the
Sort
losers
of
bracket
a
finals for a chance to go to the grand finals. So this is a
it's
this is a big deal.
it's sort of a revenge match too, because both of these runners have fought Waffle Soup before and lost, so they're fighting for the right to have a rematch.
This is true. Anything can really happen. It is a randomizer, but both of these players are very high skill because they are coming from the speedrunning world. They have a lot of tech. They have a lot of expertise. Their movement is going to be really good. Their routing is going to be very smooth. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I would like to see some early divergence and really let these runners flex their execution and kind of see where different routes take them throughout the seed.
Kind of up to whatever Bonsai rolled, though.
Yes, it is another bonsai seed. He has been rolling these seeds to mixed results. Some
Mostly
of them
cursed.
some of them have been okay. Some of them have been not so okay.
Mostly cursed. I would say at least 60%.
It's leaning towards cursed. But yeah, no, this should be a really exciting race. I actually can't wait to see how this goes. It should be really close. I'm hoping for a really close, exciting race.
Oh, I think it will be. These upper tier runners have really just been a few minutes, few seconds behind each other.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, the further we get into this tournament, the closer it seems to get.
Mhm.
Uh, the the real important thing here is the idea that in recent races there's been just gambles to skip checks, and the skipped checks have really started to burn these runners where they try to make up times. They kind of didn't have this good execution as they wanted to on a previous part of the race, and so they skip a check or so to kind of make up for it, and it's burned them. So we'll see if that pattern continues. Honestly,
Though the match that WindFaeMaiden won against Satellite, she skipped a few checks, and that's what won her the race.
yeah, it didn't get waylaid uh by rabbit holes, right? So
Mm.
it's kind of your luck. On the other hand, we had a skip of a very important check that led to the only vertical progression in the entire seed, and
Yeah, that happens.
so it's tough. And as the runners are going to start very soon here, and here they go.
Oh,
Uh,
WindFae's gonna be so happy about this.
Oh my gosh, it is a wind orb start. WindFae is a big fan of the wind orb,
Oof.
probably not as big a fan of that arm cannon.
No. Windfae's gonna be happy, but honestly, Wind Orb is kind of not the best orb to start with. Um, most of the things in the first area they're going to are going to be strong to this, and Wind Orb has the lowest attack power out of all the orbs.
Yeah, and the only upside of wind orb is it attacks just about as fast as you can button mash. So there is no upper boundary except for the limit of the human skeleton.
There's not many limits on these two skeletons, though.
No, these two skeletons are very strong. So here we are. We're going to see.
Ooh,
Oh
oh
boy. I'm
no!
going to finish my thought and we can talk about
Yes.
that. We're going to see some early differentiation in how these runners approach enemies. So, how it goes here is you want to get some experience at the start of a seed so you can gain at least one level before fighting the first boss. It just helps with your damage output, and a lot of it is going to matter in this first level where you, with that first level, can double the amount of damage you're doing. So that essentially cuts the boss time in half.
Mm. I'm getting flashbacks to one of the seeds that WindFaeMaiden has played before, actually, where that A key card opens up a very late game area, and there's some mushroom towers there that each time you hit it spawn little itty bitty baby mushrooms that also poison you. And she had to go there with Windorb, and I'm having a bit of flashbacks for that. We'll see if that happens.
That is a lot of little itty bitty baby mushrooms that are going to get spawned if they're forced to do that. And they do have that A key card, which we just saw. Ooh, and there's Bombardment. That's going to be an easy, immediate switch away from Arm Cannon to Bombardment. The Bombardment kind of is a more of a randomizer favorite than a speedrun favorite. It's a lot of damage output. It's essentially the shotgun of this game.
They also picked up the D key card, which does let them leave the library. I'm not sure if they will, if they have other options. If their only option is the baby mushrooms, though, they're probably going to look everywhere first.
You see James is out here frantically trying to kill enemies until he gets a level up. He's kind of passed up the area where he wants to. These tanks do not give nearly as much experience as the dangly plants that have electricity coming from them. Those plants each give 4 experience points per. Those tanks, I believe, only give 2.
I believe so. We can have the developer confirm, or we'll just guess. WindFae killed enough along the way to get her level up, so she does not have to do that grind that James did.
Yeah, but you'll see James there. All those 2s that are popping up, those could have been 1s. That is why it is so important.
Doubled.
That is why it is so important to get that first level up before you fight this boss. And there you go. That's over. Honestly, looking for a little bit more aggressive bombardment uses, it takes a lot less time to hit bombardment for 7 hits of 9 damage than it does to hit it for... Yeah. I don't know how many, what's 63? 31 and a half button presses for the Wind Orb. I do think WindFae did make a little bit quicker work of boots there, so she'll make up a little bit of time.
Yeah, they do have very little aura or magic points right now, so even though Bombardment is a relatively cheap spell for the amount of damage it does, they can't really cast it too many times. But Boots dropped a key card. The first boss, which is called Boots.
Feline Sentry, but we affectionately call it Boots, after the feline voice actor that graciously lended their talents to the Feline Sentry part.
Trapped him in a bathroom with a microphone in his face, and that's how we got the meow.
Alright, so we did see an ancient coin in the library. Getting an ancient coin out of a treasure chest where it's easy to hit start A and then immediately equip it, yeah. See, that is... Oh, and a tablet.
This is a...
So the ancient coin... In this early going, the ancient coin provides just enough of a stat boost to properly, boost your... Especially with a Wind Orb where you're low... Ooh, wow. Ooh. Speaking of Wind Orb, it's probably gone for most of the rest of this seed.
This library is stacked.
Yes, we are finding a lot of really good gear here in this library. The tablet is a very convenient thing to find here. You see all these computers that show up throughout the game. Typically, they give you some lore and they give you some money, but here, because we have downloadable items on, they do give items, and one of those items is very important indeed. It is the Timespinner Wheel.
Timespinner Wheel is one of the 5 pieces that they need to trigger the end game, the true end, which is considered the goal for the randomizer. There are 2 branches of the storyline you can follow. True ending requires a few more pieces to get it going, and that's why it is picked for the randomizer, because the more gating items you have, the more interesting routing you'll have.
And speaking of interesting routing, we have literally one thing that our runners are capable of doing right now, and that is go to the right, leave the library, and fish for progression in Varndegray's Tower. WindFae's doing a little bit of preemptive menuing, going and grabbing this save. Not sure. I think she has in mind that she's going to be safe scumming if she doesn't find anything, but I mean, the fact is, she has to find something over here.
Well, there could be something in Spring Chicken, because they have time stop now.
They do
if you
have
remember,
time stop.
They
that
have the key mechanic of this game early on, which is unusual for the randomizer.
Very unusual.
There's also the chest just before boots that you can technically get with time stop.
That is a good call. There are 2 checks that they can backtrack to get. So WindFae actually grabbing that save. Oh man, it looks like the backtrack is actually the play.
Though there is an area that James is heading to here that technically you can get soft locked in, except they have time stop, so you can technically get back out with time stop.
It's just a bit of a hassle. You have to jump on the head of an enemy that, you know, might not cooperate immediately.
The Roombas don't always cooperate for you.
Yeah, and James is dipping into what we call the Metal Gear Solid room, climbing around in some vents.
Also the Die Hard room.
Oh, and that's the Celestial Sash, so never mind on the backtrack being the play. Celestial Sash gives our runners infinite vertical movement, as you can see.
But that does mean Zarian is a play right now.
Zarian is the play right now. We could see yet another early Zarian.
Unless those 2 checks I mentioned earlier have the pyramid keys or a spindle, then Zarian looks like it's going to be the place to go.
Yeah, certainly does look like it. WindFae's just cleaning up this last little check, and is going to be doing the same backtracking that James is doing. Their gear early on, pretty good. They have an Eternal Crown and an Empress robe. I'd say like the 3rd or 4th best robe and the 2nd best helmet slot. So that's really good for them so far in this early game. It's going to give them some defense, but more importantly, some damage output.
You may hear a cat in the background of my room. It's not actually Boots. Boots unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but it is actually the voice actor of Mayef. What do you want,
being
sir?
That little dragon that's following our protagonist around.
He's throwing a fit because he wants to be in my office, but I have to close the door for this. And doors closed are just an awful thing for cats, aren't they? He's real mad at me.
Yeah, the good call here from Lily in chat is the Eternal Crown actually reduces the usage of their sand. And sand, you'll see that hourglass in the top left of their screen. That's a meter that says how long they can stop time for using the time spinner wheel. So the Eternal Crown's going to let them stop time for a little bit longer than they would otherwise. And at these early levels, you really don't start with a ton of sand. I don't think they've gotten many max stand ups, if any.
I think I think there was one. I think there was one. It's not going to help very much at this point, though.
Right. So especially if they have to go into that high level late game area, that sand is going to be very, very important for these runners because they're going to be taking a lot of damage, even with their high tier gear that they found early in the seed.
Last check here for James.
It's the pyramid
keys.
Well, they had the skeleton still too. But
I know, but
yeah, the pyramid keys allow the fast travel in this game, and the fast travel means that they are not going to have to go to this late game area right away. Oh, as James finds the best headgear in the game on that skeleton, unfortunately was not enough to save that particular skeleton's life.
No, he just got stuck down there.
Interestingly enough, they did find one warp shard. They found one warp shard at the very beginning of the game, so they will not have to buy 9 of them. I know WindFae did not go get the memory that would give them another 250 of the in-game money called entropy.
And they got a warp point by Lake Serene in the path. That's a decent enough location to start. James deciding to go to the left here into Lake Serene. I'm not sure I'd make the same play.
Yeah, interesting choice. I would consider this a bit of a gamble. Oh, well, there is a piece of the time spinner. Unfortunately, I think this is a very common route that WindFae will do without much thought later.
But if she gets a fire source, then those vines that James is passing up can be burned by WindFae, and that opens up checks in the present timeline.
Yeah, WindFae is going to the right, not doing the same thing that James is doing, getting this refugee camp, which is a quick 4 checks. There's a water mask.
Well,
that is another
you
thing.
wished for some divergence here.
That is another thing James could have found over here that would pay off. Water mask allows you to swim underwater. That is big. James opting to go fight this optional boss over here first before doing water checks just to free up the portal that's going to be behind this boss. Still no fire, so still risking a bit of backtracking here. WindFae, meanwhile, is moving towards actual required bosses. But, you know, required in a randomizer can mean many different things. If this is required, if what is behind this boss that James is fighting is required because there's an item here, then that is going to be huge for James, because this is kind of a branch that it's not necessarily given that WindFae is going to go do immediately. And we've already seen a one piece of the Timespinner, which is required on this side.
WindFae picked up the gas mask, which is a optionally required item. It helps in the present timeline with certain specific events. She did have to pass up the waterfall check because she did not have the water mask, which James found to the left of their warp.
Yeah, now that James has this water mask, he's fishing for fire. Since he's still not going to do these required bosses, I just have to interrupt.
Like, fishing for fire sounds completely impossible, but I know what you meant.
Right. He's fishing for a fire source, is what I should say. Anything that deals fire damage, there's the Fire Orb, the Infernal Flame spell, the Jin Inferno spell, and the Pyro Ring, can burn these vines and create a path in the present times. This is the past times that our runners are going through. Forge a path in the present times to open up several checks that are not otherwise available. So he's really looking to get a fire source over here to make this trip really, really worth it as this gamble early, where WindFae is actually going and doing required things. Explicitly required things, I should say.
Yeah, there are 3 bosses in this game that you're absolutely required to destroy in order to open up the path to the end game in the present. There's 3 lasers, 1 for each boss, just gotta do it.
Yeah, we did see double jump here in the castle keep, so not quite as relevant because we have the Celestial Sash, but for a bit of movement, Celestial Sash does give you infinite vertical at the expense of immediately losing all of your horizontal momentum.
WindFae checking the built-in map tracker. One of the really cool things. Oh, there's that fire source.
There's a fire source, but unfortunately that's on WindFae's side and not James's side. James is still fishing for one. There are 4 of them. It looks like he's going to grab this portal at least. He has vertical, so yeah, he's just going to go ahead and do the Maw Caves. Interestingly enough, we do have a knowledge of where the gas mask is, and WindFaeMaiden has it. James does not. We'll see if James gets all the way to the end of the Maw Caves and defeats the Maw, which will unlock all of the gases that cause our protagonist here to suffocate and lose HP very, very quickly.
Very rapidly.
Obviously, he'll probably stay in the past anyway, but it'll be an interesting routing decision to see if he skips the Maw regardless because of that risk. He does not know where the gas mask is.
Yeah, it is a tiny bit of a gamble to fight the Maw, but he could be just going down to the warp point and then coming back out.
There's our Shadow Seal. Shadow Seal is going to replace that Star of Lachiam on all 3 of WindFae's jewelry boxes. Shadow Seal is an important randomizer item. It does more damage the less HP you have. WindFae now immediately just running directly into enemies, trying to take a bunch of damage real quick to boost that Shadow Seal damage as much as she can.
The Star of Lachiam adds a 3rd orb, which increases your damage output by about 50%. Then there is the Bleak Ring, which increases your output to about 200% at maximum charge. But the Shadow Seal has the potentiality, it approaches 300 but never quite reaches that. You have to actually be at 0 hit points for that to happen. but it is the best damage boost in the game.
You know, I gotta say, I've been watching James's run through the Maw Caves. There's been nothing in terms of required items in this cave. That's gotta be a bit of a bummer, especially since he still has not found that fire source.
I'm going to switch over to WindFaeMaiden because she's going after a boss here.
You better switch quick, because this boss fight is going to be over very, very quickly.
Yep. Because she has blunt damage, which this boss is weak to. She also has Shadow Seal.
She has to be careful to not take damage here, but she'll probably be fine.
There you go.
Not a very complex fight when you're doing 57 damage to an early game boss at a time. Yep, James is either going to go up and get this check real quick and then backtrack to do the Maw, or he's just going to bypass the Maw entirely for now and come back later.
Yeah, that is one of the strategies WindFae likes using, where she just strips Lunaeus naked to get more damage before putting everything back on before the boss.
You know, I was about to say the one thing that James has that WindFae doesn't is a pink item, and as soon as I was about to say that, WindFaeMaiden finds Plasma Geyser, and she'll be able to check that. Pink room chest. I didn't even notice James got the eye orb.
We do see Jane doing the rapid orb switching, and it's gone. But to get around the cooldown on some of the slower orbs, or the orbs with the longer animation cycles, you can swap over to a different orb set and back, and that resets the cooldown. Not so good on some orbs, really good on that eye orb.
Incredibly good on the eye orb. Probably it's that and Radiant Orb, which they also have, are the two best for orb swapping. The eye orb, it looks like it disappears because you swap orbs, but in fact, the eye orb in the game is still out there dealing damage to the enemies, even though it's no longer visible.
Switch back to WindFaeMaiden's audio because it's my favorite song in the game. I know everyone likes Lake Serene's song, which is also a banger, but this one's just, I love this one.
Umbra Orb is another notable option for orb swapping.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of orb swapping in general, James is probably the most proficient at it, I think, of the runners in this entire tournament. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of damage coming out in a very short amount of time every time you see James going up against something that is a little more stationary.
Got the B key card. That is required to get to the final area.
Yeah, that is one of our 7.5, I'll call it, required items. Right now, it looks like James has the Spindle, which WindFae will have to go to Lake Serene to get.
Along the top of Lake Serene.
Along the top of Lake Serene specifically. Now, WindFae has fire, so it's not outside of the realm of possibility that she'll just
also,
go ahead
I believe
and do that right away,
Watermask
but she might not.
I believe Watermask was up along the top of Lake Serene, so she'll probably go that way.
Ooh, and there's two fire sources on the right side, so becoming less and less likely that James is going to find a fire source without going to the right to beat these required bosses.
I'll be right back. I'm just going to go let my cat out of my office.
That sounds good. So, as we see the contents of the treasure chests in the Royal Towers here, we're going to zoom up these Royal Towers. Very satisfying movement when you have the Celestial Sash and this infinite upwards movement. And now it looks like WindFae will be making her way over to fight the second of the 3 required bosses. We saw James fight that big gaping mouth that's called the Maw earlier, and that is one of the 3 required bosses.
Here comes Waterfall.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, here comes Waterfall on James's side.
Oh, Waterfall checks. This might be big.
Nope.
Nothing big there. So there are 3 required bosses. The Maw, this boss, which is Ilana, and then the big golden idol that WindFae has already fought. So you have to fight all 3 of those bosses. You need to have the D card and the B card, and you need 5 pieces of the Timespinner and some sort of vertical movement to kind of enter the end game of this. So it looks like, and there's a gear. So
also the pendulum is pretty good.
Yes, the pendulum is good. It's an equip that nullifies poison. So once you have that equipped, things that deal poison damage to you no longer deal poison damage to you.
And in this game, poison actually matters. It does a percentage of your hit points and does not go away for a very long time.
But yeah, it looks like, yep, WindFae is going top side of...
And getting those fire checks set up.
Burning the vines that James has not. James is really hoping that those vines aren't hiding anything important. As WindFae gets the spindle. We're already at 3 pieces of the time spinner and the D and the B card and the infinite vertical movement. We are cruising through this seed. Positively cruising through this seed.
Will this be finally a bonsai seed that is not cursed?
It could happen. McWorld.
It could.
James is now following in WindFae's footsteps as WindFae is following in James's footsteps. Kind of a little bit of a high five going on as they pass each other.
You wished for divergence, and I think we got some.
This is about as divergent as you can get, yeah. WindFae also opting to just go fight the Azure Queen before checking anything that's underwater. With 2 pieces of the time spinner remaining, I would be interested to see if WindFae's even going to do anything besides just go straight to the Maw.
Yeah, she might save these fire checks in the present for later.
Well, she's not teleporting away, so it looks like she's at least staying in the past.
Yeah. But at this point, after she defeats the Maw, she's opened up a new area in the present with a whole bunch of checks, especially with the tablet. And it's also somewhere you have to go anyway.
Yeah, and there's a good strategy that a lot of runners have in mind, which is just do the required things. As soon as a required thing is available to you, you go do it. WindFae's been doing that, and it's paid off pretty well so far. She's got a significant advantage here as she goes and backtracks. That was almost the play, but obviously WindFae doesn't know that. But unfortunately, we know everything WindFae's about to check has nothing.
I think you've said it before that there are good decisions and the correct decisions in Randomizer.
Yeah, we will see that WindFae is making the good decision. Unfortunately, not the correct decision, but...
we're omniscient, though, so...
Yep. Yeah, there is... I mean, that strategy I was talking about just go do the required things, it's kind of a brave strategy to do, and you got to kind of look at your game situation, what you have. WindFae has almost... She's 2 checks away from go mode, right? There are a lot of checks in that Maw Cave. Mm-hmm. Again, we know they have nothing. But there are a lot of checks past that Maw Cave once she actually beats it and goes to the right side to the sort of proto endgame in the military hangar in the lab. They already have the tablet. There's just not a lot left to do once she beats the Maw, except for go get this massive amount of checks. As WindFae still is not going to the Maw. This is good for James here, honestly. Mm-hmm. This is a really good thing for James.
Well, and it also depends on if you have a good warp point to come back to. When WindFae booped into that warp point and then went back to underneath Lake Serene, she wouldn't have lost any time by not going under Lake Serene because she could warp back to that warp point.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why we saw her go in there, grab the warp point, and immediately backtrack.
But I think the call I would have made was to just go to the Maw because it's required.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the call I make, because that's just kind of the routing that I like to do, which is why I leave behind checks like the waterfall so frequently. Mm-hmm. But the it's a good call to make sure, because you have teleports and you have the pyramid keys and warp shards, and you have all of the fast travel you might need, but you still have to swim and backtrack and backtracking, and you want to minimize the amount of ground you cover that you've already covered. James, I barely even noticed that he was fighting a boss before it was over.
I thought about switching over to his audio, but then it wouldn't have happened in time.
Yeah. That is the plus side. James will probably be making up some time on these bosses because he's fighting them at a higher level with better gear.
Got Jackpot Room coming up.
Yeah, we have
absolutely nothing.
Has really nothing. But yeah, James will be making up some time on the boss fights. He already is very proficient at boss fights with how good he is at this orb swapping. So that's just even more time that he's going to be gaining on WindFae, who I think I would still put in the lead, unless
Barely.
Yeah, I mean it's not by a lot. James is going to be climbing the tower, fighting that final required boss. We might be seeing them both going to the military hangar and the lab at very similar times, which is going to be really exciting. It's a very movement-heavy area of the game. Something I've noticed a lot of runners been doing is unequipping and using unequipping their armor as their means by which they take a whole bunch of damage. The problem with that strategy, if you'll allow someone who's eliminated from the tournament to wax strategy here, is that
go ahead. I'm not even in this tournament, and I tell them that they're doing things wrong. So, you know.
So the issue there is the bosses do way more damage than any of these individual enemies, and you can get to the level of HP that WindFae just got herself to by just kind of headbutting against the boss she's about to fight a couple of times. It's a lot faster, and as you're doing that, you are piling up damage on the boss that you're lowering your HP to fight in the first place. So that's just a little bit of you know, it's stuff that comes with playing the randomizer a lot.
Hot tips from the eliminated person.
Hot tips from the dude who didn't make it as far in the tournament as these players. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt.
I do think that you have something there that contact damage with the bosses does get you a lot more damage than those enemies.
Yeah, and it doesn't stop you from getting to the boss. You're getting knocked back from each of those enemies you hit yourself against, and that actually delays you by valuable seconds to getting to the thing that you have to do.
WindFae has finished all 3 of the bosses. It looks like she may head into the hangar a little earlier, depending on what she decides to do as cleanup.
Yeah, it looks like she's going to check these underwater checks in the caves, which is, again, the good play. I don't believe she grabbed the teleporter that is close to those checks. So this might be an opportunity for James to beat this boss, skedaddle, go to the military hangar, and be a little bit ahead, actually. James opting for arm cannon here, which is not something you typically see.
A interesting, bold strategy. Interesting and bold
the
strategy.
there is the arm cannon pauses you in midair.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah, and Mark also brings up the valuable seconds that you spend menuing to unequip and then re-equip your armor.
But the idea that Luneus takes the time to just tear off all her armor before charging headlong through all the enemies without even stopping.
And here's what we were worried about with James. He's equipped the pyro ring, he's going back, and he's checking these fire checks. Neither of them believing that the lab will be money in the parlance of the randomizer community.
Lab is always money. I would say, in all seriousness, it is always money because you have to get there anyway.
I mean, that's where the saying came from. You have to do the lab always. WindFae looking like she's going to check Waterfall real quick.
Listen, Waterfall burned people so hard in so many of these seeds that I don't think anyone is ever going to skip it ever again.
Oh yeah, WindFae definitely knocked me out of the tournament because of a Waterfall check that she did early that I did not do until very, very, very late.
People equals WEF, yes.
Yes, people equals WEF. Thank you, Mark.
Here we have present. Ooh, Fire Checks has a gear.
That is pretty large. But it looks like WindFae is about. Never mind.
She doing Zarian? No,
she's going to get these. Oof. That is not grabbing. Ooh. What are you doing? I'm trying to figure out what WindFae's routing here is.
I think she misread the map.
Oh, I see.
You know, when you pop up that in-game tracker and hold down attack...
She's going the wrong way.
Well, I don't think she intended to go to get the left one right now.
There's an elevator key card behind fire checks as well, which could be very important.
No, she got one gear from Alana. And then the second gear is in that left fire check. So WindFae is still missing that one gear if she remembers to go for that fire check. It is right by a warp, but that really depends on her assuming that there's going to be something there.
Yeah, and also, I don't know how many warp shards she has left. She's been using a lot of them. James probably going to, go right to the military hangar. This is her last warp shard. And she's going to go pick it up. Oof. That could have spelled disaster if she didn't go here.
You know, that one check, you're like, that's nothing. It's just one check. But they did pick up the V key card, which opened up a few more DLC locations. They didn't have anything progression-wise, but it did have Jin Inferno.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see which of these runners opts to equip it. I know James prefers Umbra Orb against Sandman, and then Jin Inferno in the second phase. James is going to be entering the hangar a little bit ahead of WindFae.
Jin Inferno, for those of you who
Unless he goes tower. I guess I shouldn't assume. He is going
They do have
tower.
Elevator key card.
They do.
He thought against it.
Oh, he almost did, though.
No, he wanted to get the warp first. That's smart.
Oh, yeah, WindFae
did not just get the warp.
Man.
Anyway, there's the other fire.
Yeah.
For those of you not in the know about Jin Inferno, by the way, it is the strongest spell in the game, and it also is the only spell in the game that has a glitch on it, where you can just cast it forever for free, provided you have enough aura to cast it twice.
We'll see if WindFae backtracks. No, WindFae is believing. She is one item away from go mode. She's going to the place with the most checks.
I'm going to switch to her because this is a banger.
Okay.
I mean, it's a good song.
This is the right play. This is absolutely the right play. It's the area with the most checks.
There's only one gear.
You're missing one item. Like, there's... we have... You know, this is a gamble. James is going to be making his way through some slower checks, and if it pays off, then this is why I'm eliminated from the tournament and he's not. But the fact is, you got to go with check density here, unless you think you're behind. James might think he's behind because of that late fire. Yeah, he's going to be following WindFae into the hangar instead of vice versa now.
We may have lost Oop, hello.
Did we get a crash?
WindFae's screen has Oh no! Oh no! There was a crash and WindFae lost all of Ma and part of the hangar. Oh no.
That's very, very unfortunate. That is a lot of progress lost. The runners are discussing it right now. And
James is being a badass, saying, "Let me know when you get to where you crashed," and is not gonna move.
Wow. That is a great sign of sportsmanship. That is, I mean, it's what we expect. I'm not surprised, but woof.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate when you haven't saved in quite a while. And WindFae has been skipping those save points because save points also heal you to full unless you can do a little bit of toe tap and just barely graze it. And WindFae's been running Shadow Seal strats, and you do not want to be healed to full during that.
Yeah, so there really hasn't been a lot of opportunity or reason to go out of your way to just hit a save point that is going to make you weaker. Obviously, these runners so good at the game now that, you know, taking a death anywhere except for against a difficult boss fight is out of the question. So saving doesn't really do much except for, I guess, give you some occasional save scum strategies and protect you from colossal time loss due to a game crash.
Which usually does not happen.
We're going to see if WindFae... the reason that you're seeing a big version of the tracker is that the WindFae's OBS is probably capturing it by window, and the tracker has Timespinner at the front of its file name as well.
Mm-hmm. You know, when OBS has match exactly or match close.
The good news is we get to listen to some killer music, and James gets to do some quick practice with some orb swapping.
Jeff Ball, who did the music for this game, is an amazing composer and musician. He composed all the music for this game, and I pretty much love every single one. I've talked about favorites, but basically any of the songs in here are just real good. Just real good.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated as to WindFae's progress towards getting back to where she was. Knowing, I mean, it's really just a matter of knowing where the things were that she got and skipping everything else. And it shouldn't take that long as she has that memory of where things were. And obviously, for fear of giving something away, we don't want to iterate things through ourselves. We'd like to have her rediscover those by herself.
How was your day, Wef?
Well, you know, kind of slept for like 9.5 hours, woke up, kind of chilled for a while, got out of bed, made like a nice power bowl for a late lunch, got ready to sit down and do some comms on this wonderful randomizer.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing today?
I went and got my booster shot and my arm hurts.
Well, that's
Ow.
pretty good. That's good news anyway.
Worth it, but ow.
Yeah, actually, let's talk about... Crimdall's got a good point. Well, a good way to fill time. Jeff Ball, the composer of the music in Timespinner, also composer for several other projects, but specifically this wonderful music in Timespinner, is on Twitch and is part of the Timespinner Randomizer community. You can find him. I don't know if he streams much.
Not anymore, but he does occasionally. His Twitch handle is Jeff That Noise, and that's Jeff with a J. Jeff That Noise.
Yeah, and that is also his Twitter handle. If you'd like to shoot him a follow, he tweets about many things, and some of those things are his other projects that he has going. Mm-hmm. Really.
He also made a meme of One Winged Angel, but with the Kirby soundboard. It was a great tweet.
It's important for the culture.
Yes.
So far with this race, it's been kind of incredible. There was
Mm-hmm.
divergence almost immediately that we saw. We saw James going left towards Lake Serene and WindFae going right towards the castle keep. And like it's kind of remarkable that they are so close here, given the difference in quality of finds on either side of that map. And it all comes down to WindFae and James both kind of, like I was saying before, sort of delaying their progress towards this kind of proto endgame area, even as they're only missing one item for Go mode. I don't know if that's an abundance of caution or if it's a feeling that either one of these runners is behind and has to do something a little oddball to try and make up the time, or maybe skip a whole bunch of checks. I mean, if you hit Go mode and you can just not check all of these things in Military Hangar in the lab, it does cut off a lot of time, but you also run the risk that you're doing a bunch of things that you don't have to do because the go mode is where it's mathematically most probable to be.
Mm-hmm. Looks like we're still waiting for a catch-up. Hopefully, it doesn't take too much longer. I know that the SpeedGaming channels are all pretty full. Hopefully, we don't take too long on this channel.
Oh, I apparently don't have permission to chat during the race.
No, we don't.
On GG, so...
No, we are not cool enough to talk in there.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Trying to communicate to WindFae that we do not have gameplay. I'm hoping that she is currently playing through, but I don't see anything being added to her tracker. I would think that the first thing she would do is go pick up that gear, but she might not even remember where it was.
Yeah, it looks like she's fixing OBS.
Okay. Nonetheless, I don't see this seed taking much longer after we resume, so it's not like we're going to go horribly over time.
If Zarian has the last gear, well, even then they have good stats right now. They're pretty good level. They got good warps. You know, it's just gonna take a few more minutes to find that last piece and head to end game.
All right, it looks like we do have the gameplay here. We'll see as WindFae catches up to where she was. She was at the B card room right before entering the lab.
Actually, just below James here.
Literally one room below James on the minimap. So very, very close. We will just wait for WindFae to catch up. It looks like really the elevator key card. So she has to find the elevator key card and go back and get that gear.
But there was nothing in there. Well, Jin Inferno was in there.
Yeah, Jin Inferno was in there, so that is true. So the V card, the elevator key card, and that gear, and then make her way back to that room right before the lab.
I do not remember where those were.
Yeah, I don't remember where the V and the elevator... I only know where the gear was because it was such a big deal when James checked it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you recover from this crash? Do you think WindFae is calm here? Do you think it's a bit of a flustered moment? How do you expect this to affect WindFae going forward in this match?
Personally, I'd be a bit upset because I have... there's always that expectation of what people are thinking of you, and James said it's all good, we all said it's all good, but there's always that, you know, you expect more of yourself than others. And so I really hope WindFae is not blaming herself for this.
Right. I mean, who knows what caused the crash? We've had... I mean, it's a very stable randomizer. I've never had a crash myself. Mm-hmm. So that's just kind of a surprise. It's not something you really prepare for. Oh, man. And the question is, does she even remember what she had?
Looking at the chat, it looks like it crashed on her again. But she saved. Okay. Oh, no. It crashed again on her.
Oh, boy. I wonder what's causing that to happen.
I'm not sure. My recommendation at this point would be to do a reboot of your computer, but that's, you know, wasting... Yep. There it went.
There it is.
I don't know if Fonzai can hear us, but we could do the homebrew restream later on my channel. If... Oh, and WindFaeMaiden works in about an hour and a half.
So they're discussing a rematch. I don't know if... yeah, like Llama said, it's possible for us to kind of homebrew a restream that will unfortunately not be on SpeedGaming. We'll see WindFae, and the interesting thing is we're seeing, this is, again, an older crash that kind of ceased to be an issue in in so far as we used to have an issue where if you would gather too many items too quickly, it would crash the game because it would have an issue with the messaging queue that tells you what you're getting as you're gathering the items. That's 2 crashes in a row where WindFae is collecting multiple items very, very quickly in a row, and it's crashed the game. And I wonder if that's related.
Hasn't happened in months.
It has been a resolved issue, but yeah, WindFae taking her time and collecting these this time. I think she might be familiar with the bug. That is very, very, very interesting to me because that is an old and fixed bug.
It'll be interesting to see what the crash reports say, if there are any.
Yeah, and as WindFae, you can see her being very circumspect about opening these chests that are next to each other. And is that another crash? No, okay, never mind.
I had a heart attack when the stream froze a bit, but we're good.
All right, so WindFae should be.
Looks like she's almost back to where she was.
Yeah, she'll be running. She probably knows that there's nothing.
She's probably going to get Jin Inferno.
She's going to get Jin Inferno.
And then skip most of Tower.
Yeah. She also doesn't want to give herself the disadvantage of skipping all like the max health ups and max aura ups that she may have gathered on the way. But I think she realized that there was no progression that she found on the way. And she'll just zoom right to where she was. I didn't even get a chance to see what the items were that she picked up in the room that she was just leaving that she crashed in.
I don't believe we actually saw it on stream. I think there was a little bit of stream lag and then it just was gone.
Right.
But she is almost there.
They have the tablet, they have full vertical, they have a lot of really good movement, and this siege should not take long. I mean, it's the worst thing that could happen is, like you said, Zarian, the boss, having the final gear, but they have a lot of checks that they can do very quickly as WindFae is just kind of going through the motions of everything that she had, not quite remembering if there was anything worth keeping, and honestly, I don't blame her. It's not progression. It doesn't show up on the tracker. James, we got to get a shout out to James here for, he could have, well, I don't know. I say could have, but I'm pretty sure he would have been ostracized if he would have said, you know what, tough luck.
I don't think we would have ostracized him, but maybe strongly frowned at.
Yeah, I would have ostracized. No, I'm just kidding. No, this is a pretty close-knit community. We all
love each other.
This is where we're picking back up. Oh, there's Light Wall.
There we go.
And now James, unfortunately, does have a slight hint that he is right in lockstep with WindFae. So,
all right, they're going off. They've discussed it, and we should see both James and WindFae pick up in, I think it's about 30 or so seconds that our stream is off from the messages. But yeah, this community, I really enjoy this community a lot. I don't actually race in it, but everyone in it seems to just be real nice, and I haven't really had to worry about too many toxicities. I haven't seen much myself. It's just been real nice, real good friends. Like James here, waiting good solid 15 plus minutes. I wasn't sure.
And they're going. James will
catch up soon. There you go. Close enough.
Yeah.
Considering what happened, it's close enough.
Yep. Because that WindFae, by the time James noticed, WindFae did have a little bit more of a lead than James had at the start. So you can see James giving WindFae a couple more seconds. It's just really just great sportsmanship. Now we'll see how close it is. We have different routing through the lab, so if the gear is where James is checking, then, karma, right?
I think WindFae's going to be going to Spider Hell here, because they have Radiant Orb.
Yeah, they're switching to Radiant and Shadow Seal. Oof, this is going to be very, very close. It's really all going to depend on where that gear is. If it's not in the lab at all, that is going to create another very, very interesting decision for our runners to make. Do they go check the tower that comes after the lab? Do they go into that late game area that they've had access to for basically the entire seed?
I'm gonna bet that they go to the tower that's just beyond the lab.
Yeah, they have to go pick up the they do have to go pick up the portal there anyway, or they don't have to, but it's very
a good
advised
idea
to do so. James is doing Spider Hell. The gamble would be to skip it, but again, with Radiant Shadow, it doesn't take that long to complete.
They also know that they are very close to each other right now, so there's a little bit of metagaming going on. It can't really be helped in this situation, but yeah, I don't think I would skip anything in this situation.
Right, yeah, they're kind of doing the exact same thing, just in a different order. So they're going to be in lockstep yet again.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of just like on top of each other on the mini-map as it stands.
Yeah, just about a room and a half behind her is James.
He's already checked that room with the acid pits, so he's just going to go right where WindFae is right now. This is an astonishingly close race. There it is. This is going to be so close, Llama.
Oh my god.
This is going to be so close. Oh, WindFae's doing some menuing. Switching to Wind Orb. This is going to be this Genza fight, this boss fight that's coming up right now. WindFae checking.
WindFae, where are you checking things? Go!
Oh my goodness, this is going to be close. And here's that orb swapping coming out.
Okay.
James is almost definitely going to finish this fight before WindFae, given this damage output right now.
I can't breathe. I think this is the closest race we've had so far.
This is definitely the closest race we've had. WindFae dodging damage here instead of taking it. We'll see where they go. James is going to be doing that orb swapping.
Mm-hmm.
WindFae taking the left portal to fight the boss that does have less HP. WindFae doing a lot of menuing while James is just pouring on the damage. This orb swapping proficiency is really giving him an edge here in this late game.
Yeah, I think it's the orb swapping that it's coming down to here. I think even if the game hadn't crashed, it would still be this close.
Yeah, WindFae seems to have switched to Bleak Ring at some point as well, which may be... This is so close. We're looking at seconds. We're looking at seconds.
Okay.
This is.
My brain has shut down for a moment for commentary. So we're in the end game here.
The timers are about a half of a second apart, and WindFae is about
half a second.
Yeah, behind James. So here we go. It's movement and execution. You'll see the runners not wanting to contact the floor as they're going down slopes. Luneas is slightly slower going down slopes than she is going through the air.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, time stop is not going to help him here. This is lore-based wise. Stuff here is immune to time stop. Except for Sandman.
All right, well, James has been... Oh, I didn't see it this time. James has said he's going to do light wall skip every time. It doesn't matter. I think in a race that he knows is this close, he's like, maybe not.
Final game area. The final boss has 2 forms, and the first form has 2 phases. First form is weak to a few things, but they're probably going to be using Radiant Orb and Umbra Orb and
yeah, they'll be using Umbra Orb, Crimson Vortex. James has this Umbra Orb swapping. He's not getting the boss AI that he wants here, but he's not getting the worst boss AI. It looks like James is going on to the...
WindFae had a really good toe touch on that save point and didn't get fully healed.
It is true. James, I think, skipped the save point entirely. So he's going to be a little bit cautious, getting the heck out of the way. Jin Inferno for WindFae.
Holy shit! Sorry. Do you see the racetime.gg room?
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Not gonna say anything. Not gonna say anything. But James going to the final boss. Nightmare here, weak to light, so you can use Radiant Orb and Light Walls. And there's exclamation points for James, and then exclamation points for WindFae in just a second. The official time for James KT was 56 minutes and 37 seconds. For WindFae, 56 minutes and 57 seconds. 20 seconds apart.
I'm speechless. This is incredible. And incredibly...
And that's why I swore on this channel. I'm very sorry.
Oof. Wow.
That was a lot. That was close.
And, you know, I think we avoided a little bit of controversy here. So James did make the decision to chill out and wait for WindFae. And, yeah, I think the win going to James instead of WindFae does remove a little bit of the potential controversy here. Not that I think there would be any undue drama in the community or anything, but I think
otherwise
James
you're
did
gonna
win this one
ostracize
outright
them.
regardless.
Yeah, let's see if we can get them in here. I really want to talk to them about this.
I really do.
Jeez.
That was a close race. Incredible by both runners.
We were talking about how close the runs have been. None of them this close.
I just don't know what to say. The whole situation that happened towards the end of this seed is just leaving me gobsmacked.
If I think WindFae had a little less menuing, she would have been ahead.
A little less menuing. I mean, who knows if 20 seconds of menuing is really what it... I mean...
Who knows?
That's... Oof.
WindFae!
We are joined by WindFae. WindFae, hello.
How about that 20-second difference?
Yeah, I'm really peeved by the crashing twice too.
We came to a good honor agreement, and I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Both of you were pretty close the entire time. James, welcome. Welcome.
Hey. Hello.
20 seconds, though.
Yeah.
Just really, really close race. James, first off, I have to say, amazing sportsmanship, allowing WindFae to catch up to where she was.
Thank you for that.
It would not feel right.
Yes, but still, real cool of you.
Real cool of you. Just, we're watching you both go through the lab, and we're watching, you know, James, you go to Acid Room first, and WindFae does the shut off of the lab in Spider Hell first. Nothing is there, and nothing's in Spider Hell, so we're like, okay, well, James, if he doesn't do Spider Hell, that's a lot of time gained.
But then he did Spider Hell.
And we're like, okay, well, they're going to be in lockstep again.
Maybe the gear will be somewhere outside of the lab, so there's going to be divergence. Nope, there it is.
Yeah.
That like last check right before.
Yeah, no kidding. Second last.
I was starting to break that.
Yeah, we yelled at you a little bit.
No.
Yeah, we started to break the walls. Like, what you looking for?
Yeah.
That was really cool. Final lab routing there. And overall, I think a pretty nice seed. Nice
start.
routing. Yeah.
I like the start. It had Wind Orb. I saw that and I was like, let's go.
Wind Orb
we knew
was
you'd
fun.
be happy.
But definitely had to gain one level at the very least before taking on the cat.
I did that too.
Doubled your damage output.
Definitely. Especially when you have bombardment.
The getting that A key card early on with Wind Orb as your only orb for a little bit did send me to flashbacks of that one seed you had, WindFae, with the millions of little baby mushrooms.
Yep.
But Zarian was not required, nor was any of the sealed caves.
Nope. I was thankful for
Thankfully.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I took
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was glad I took the bet that Varney's Tower would have something, since we had C card 2, and then Sash was in the top of the vents, and I was just like, oh, I'm so thankful I went here first.
Both of you went there pretty much at the same time.
Yeah.
It was an incredible race. I've said multiple times during this tournament that proficient orb swapping is going to take about 30 to 45 seconds off of your time. James, you just won this by 20 seconds. About how does it feel to kind of ride the strategy that you brought to the randomizer in a big way to the losers bracket finals against Waffle Soup?
Well, I'm definitely gonna enjoy this run back.
Yeah, it is going to be a run back. Waffle Soup did say after his win yesterday, or his loss yesterday, that he was going to be facing either WindFae or James, and he did make a statement while you were in chat listening, saying that he did already beat both of you. So
Shade.
that was a bit of shade. You reacted in a real. I mean, obviously, this is all in good fun, right? There's
Fun.
There's no hard feelings. We all like to have fun here, but it'll be interesting to see the rematch. There's a lot of really good storylines to follow for the rest of this tournament, and I'm just really, really excited to see the remaining 2 matches that we have in this randomizer tournament. It's been a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
The gauntlet has been thrown by Waffle Soup along with a sip emote of WindFae.
Yes.
Very cute emote. But yeah, that was real fun. Looking forward to tomorrow. We should have 2 matches tomorrow to finish up our tournament. We'll have James KT versus Waffle Soup, and then whoever wins that versus Crimdoll for the final.
WindFae, it has been a pleasure watching you run through these randomizer seeds. Unfortunately, this does mark the end. Do you have any last thoughts on the tournament, on this seed? I have to commend you. I mean, I would be so flustered coming out of these crashes that I don't know if I could have focused.
I am still very flustered.
You did so good. You did so good.
Please do send those crash reports if you have them to Jarno. He definitely will need them.
Mm-hmm.
I know why the second one happened, and it's just because the leak ring and elevator keycard picked up at the same time. I have no idea why it did it with just the light wall in that room. It crashed on
that bug was supposed to have been fixed, where you pick up things too rapidly, but send those crash reports anyway.
Yeah, necessary.
Yep.
Well, let me tell you, it was a blast commentating this run. Just 2 really, really great runners here. Just a lot of stuff happened. There was a lot of divergence. Then you all kind of high-fived a couple of times as you passed each other to follow in each other's footsteps of things that you each had already done. And then it all kind of culminated in you being about a room and a half or so away going into the lab, which was just so exciting. Just absolutely so exciting. Just I can't hope for a better race than what just happened.
20 seconds is really short.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like we need a rematch just because
I don't
like the crashes, honestly.
Me too. But hey, if you want to, I'm up really late, but I don't have much time tomorrow, so this might be for the best.
Yeah.
You can have a rematch next time.
Yeah, this is not going to be the last time we do something like this for Timespinner. I want to thank SpeedGaming Live for giving us all these restreams, giving us a shot. It's kind of a smaller community, but it's just a real passionate community, giving us the chance to kind of spread the love of this game out to a wider audience. And it's just a really fun game to play. The randomizer is real great. It's a labor of love. And I'm so happy that we're given this platform to show it off. So thank you very much, WindFae, James. James, congratulations. Best of luck against Waffle Soup in the revenge tour that you're going to hopefully be taking through the losers bracket. Yeah, it's gonna be Waffle Soup's really good, but you know it's a randomizer, anything could happen. Llama, thanks for joining me on commentary. It's been a blast as always.
As always.
And
Thank you, Paul.
again, thank you to SpeedGaming. There's lots of really cool stuff happening on SpeedGaming today. Even after this is over, I unfortunately don't have the schedule up, but it looks like Metroid Fusion Randomizer or Bingo, Metroid Fusion
something.
something
Over
with
on-
Metroid Fusion's going on right now on SpeedGaming 3, and that's going to be a blast, I'm sure. Metroid Fusion's a real solid game. So much love to SpeedGaming. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Any last words from any of you before we sign off?
See y'all next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.